This is my sandbox course. This is not our ITS course. If you don't remember what your old one is, just click forgot password. It'll just reset it. GCR BP9BD. Okay. Yes. A lot of times, like the kids will do that. The Chromebooks encrypt the profile on the Chromebook itself. So what that's really saying is, if you have like work that didn't get uploaded to Google Drive, you'll lose it if you forgot your password. Yeah, no, you. Right. I always change mine. I have a bunch of like 4-digit passwords that I use. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and get started here. While we're getting set up, there's coffee in the back. If you guys want some coffee back there, please help yourself. Some other goodies back there as well. We are working only on Chromebooks today because I want you guys to see what students see when they're in your class. The presentation I'm using is right here. You might want to make sure you click that, add to drive button and save it. The Schoology course that we're using today is one of my sandbox courses. It's the one that kicks you out every day. I did that because I'm teaching this class at the Digital Learning Summer Summit, and I didn't want to have like 4,000 people in my class forever. So I did it this way. So it's going to kick you out every day, but save the presentation. That way you've got the code to join back in if you want the materials. So as we get started today, the codes are still up here. As we get started today, I just want to make sure everybody understands this is a judgment-free zone. We are all new to Schoology, so I'm not pointing anybody out. You might see some examples from your class. I'm not trying to single you out. I anonymized everything, but if you see it, don't go, oh, that's me, if you don't want everybody to know. So we're all learning Schoology, and we're in the process of really just trying to effectively use it. Most of us are up and running and on the right path, and we're really making some great strides, and we've got some people in the building that are really doing a fantastic job, and I think everybody's doing a great job kind of getting on board with Schoology. So the codes are on the next slide. So the goals for today are we want to work to develop student-centered, visually appealing materials. And the kind of our driving questions for today are going to be, how can I make this easier for students? And how can I make this visually appealing? One thing that I want you to keep in mind is that, yes, it does take a little bit of extra time to develop your lessons. And I know we're converting our lessons from Google Drive into to Schoology, and there is some front loading that goes on here with this. But as you develop your lessons this year, once you get to next year, it's going to be a simple process of I just pull them back out of my resources or pull them back out of my classes. So as we start to build this, it's going to get easier as we go. And I really feel like, at this time of year, we missed all those days at the beginning of the year. So everybody was like, yeah, I got to get everything, everybody's off their pacing and everything. And I feel like it feels a lot more relaxed now. Second semester, we didn't have, 2 weeks of snow days and stuff like that. So I feel like everybody's kind of a little more comfortable with their pacing and everybody's a little more online. So now's a good time for us to take a look and to start getting stuff set up, so that way towards the end of the year next year, you're going to have an even easier time. All the examples are in my Sandbox course. The code is right up here. Please join the Sandbox course. Couple things to note: you will be automatically kicked out every night, but since you saved the presentation, you've got the code, so you can just join back in. If you see something in there that you want to come back to, or you want to copy to your classes, let me know and I will be happy to make sure that you have access to do that. So this class really came from a couple of places. Remember back in December, all teachers and all students had to do a Schoology survey course, a Schoology survey. So as Jennifer and I were looking through the data that came back, on your tables there's kind of a buff colored sheet that most of this data is up there. This may be slightly different than what's up here on the screens, but I thought maybe it might be a little easier to see. So this is from the student data from the division survey. How much do you agree with each statement about your teachers who are using Schoology? My teachers know how to use Schoology. 59% agree, almost 18% strongly agree. We're doing pretty good there, right? My teachers have shown me how to use Schoology. Again, 53%, 23%, we're 76%. So we're doing a pretty good job there. My teachers have shown me how to use Schoology to learn independently. We're sliding a little, but we're still in the good range, right? Everybody's pretty well on board there. This next slide, Schoology helps me to, our numbers are sliding a little bit, but the one that really stands out to me is this one right here. Students are not excited about learning. Now, I don't know if that's just because they're not excited about learning or it's some Schoology things, right? But, overall, mostly positive. That one really did kind of stick out to me a little bit. But these next two slides really, I think, are kind of telling. So student data, how satisfied are you with Schoology? 53% of our students are not at all satisfied with Schoology, okay? Compared to teachers, 73% of our teachers are satisfied with Schoology. So there's kind of a little disconnect there, right? So we kind of wanted to see why, and I kind of want to tell you a little quick story. Way back when I was in college, 100 years ago, mountain bikes were a new thing. So I bought a mountain bike. And my first one, this is not my first one, this is my second one, because my first one was like a 50-pound monster with steel wheels, and when it rained, you couldn't stop it. There was just no stopping it. So I bought this one. This is a bike shop bike, and it was nice. I mean, it weighed a lot less. It was about 30 pounds or so, maybe a little bit more than 30 pounds. It was all steel, and this was my old school mountain bike. This is Google Classroom. It does one thing, and it does it okay. Okay. New mountain bikes, if you bought one, been to a bike shop anytime recently, they're all like full suspension. They look like motorcycles. They got front and back shocks on them. They have index shifting, which you push a button and it clicks into gear. This guy over here had what's called friction shifting. You had to kind of accurately find the spot to make sure it changed gears correctly. And if you were a little bit out of adjustment, it would kind of try and switch to the next gear, but you could pull it back and adjust it because it was like continuously adjustable slider there. Rim brakes. This guy has disc brakes on it. Stops way better than mine does. This one I said weighs about 30 pounds. This one weighs like 22 pounds. Makes a big difference, right? I had 5 gears on the rear cluster back here. So this was a 15 speed. So that was really revolutionary in 1980 something. This guy has like 33 gears. It has 11 gears in the back, right? So lots of changes, lots of upgrades to that bike. But the problem with this bike is that this one, if my shifting was a little out of adjustment, no problem. I could adjust it from where I was, so I could always shift. This one with index shifting, you push the button, and if your bike is out of adjustment, it doesn't go into the right gear, or it doesn't stay in the right gear. If you haven't adjusted the shocks on it, you're going to bottom out, you're going to be bouncing around, it's not going to work really well for you. Same thing with the brakes. The brakes are hydraulic, so you've got to adjust the hydraulic brakes. And this bike requires a lot more maintenance than this one does. Yeah, but the old bike didn't do a lot of stuff. I can go a lot more places on this bike than I could on this bike. So that's kind of the difference there, right? I can do a lot more things. I can do a lot more challenging trails. I can go farther off-road. You know, once this bike is working, man, it's way better than this one. Well, Google Classroom, Schoology. Google Classroom is kind of a one-trick pony. It's really designed, it's not designed to be a full-fledged learning management system. It's designed to get Google Docs to kids and to change sharing permissions and settings so that we can use it with Google. It actually is built on, there was an app called Doctopus that would actually, you put your class roster in and it would share documents with students, and it was kind of the geeky way to do it. And Google Classroom was like the index shifting way to do that. It made it a lot easier to share those documents with students. You know, and it copies those things out. You can share websites. So a couple of things that we can do. We can share websites. We can post announcements. We can differentiate assignments. That's actually in the newer version of Google Classroom. It was really kind of difficult to do that with the Google Classroom that we were using. Late and overdue notifications for students and parents. You know, that's new to it also, but some things there. But with Schoology, we have a lot more things. We can organize stuff better. Google Classroom was just, everything was in one stream, right? There's no way to put folders in there. There's no way to add organization in there, anything like that. Schoology has assignments. It has discussion boards built in, tests and quizzes, all of those things right within Schoology. It has the gradebook passback. Just FYI, it's being tested right now. So there's our 2 schools, a middle school and a high school, that are testing the gradebook passback. So hopefully that's on the way for us. Schoology can differentiate tests and discussions. You can use mastery. So when you give a test or a quiz, you can tag all the questions with appropriate SOLs. So when it's time for SOL boot camp, you can look and see which kids need work on which objectives, right? So this is way more powerful, but we need to make sure it's adjusted correctly in order to make it work well for our students. So transitioning to digital lessons. So questions that we're going to answer today. How can you transition your traditional paper pencil lessons to work in a digital environment? And more importantly, do all traditional lessons survive the transition? Yeah, it's obvious, right, Sandy? No, they don't, right? So there are cases where we're not saying absolutely replace everything that you've got. I mean, you've been teaching. There's nobody in here as a first-year teacher. You guys have lessons that you've used in the past that work really well, that you've tweaked and you've got working, and we don't necessarily want you to replace those things. And absolutely, we're not being replaced. So when you're in your classroom, that direct instruction time, you know, we're not saying that has to be in Schoology, but there are some ways that we can tweak some things that we are putting in Schoology, and some of the types of things that we're using Schoology for that can help to make it work more effectively for our students. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, Schoology is not really just for us, it's for our students, right? To get the digital information, to get the information out to them. So one of the biggest things to help make Schoology effective for students, test your lessons that you put in Schoology on your Chromebook. That was the reason that we gave teachers Chromebooks this year. Last week, Jason came to me and said, look at this list of teachers who have not been using their Chromebooks, and we can tell because the operating system on their Chromebook is 6, 7, 8, 10, 18 in one case, versions behind. Yeah, so if you're 18 operating systems behind, guess what? We know you have not been using it. It's been sitting in the drawer in your classroom and nobody has touched it, right? Preview your lessons on the Chromebook as a student. The reason for that is not everything that you're putting into Schoology works well on the Chromebook. When you look at it on your laptop and you test it on your laptop, works great on your laptop, but then when the students try and use it, it doesn't work. I've had so many teachers come to me and say the kids are really having a hard time with this, and a lot of times it comes back to, well, you put this type of document in or you put this in this way, and that's not the easiest way for students to use it. And one of the things that we're going to work on today is how can you make it easier for students to use? Once you start figuring out a couple of these tricks to make things easier for students to use, you're going to find that they're going to turn more stuff in, because that's a complaint that I've had from a lot of teachers, that students don't turn stuff in Schoology. You didn't make it easy for them. Well, some of it is their fault because, again, we know how students are. But some things that, I'm going to show you some examples today, and I'm going to ask you guys to turn some stuff in, and you're going to see what students are seeing in classes around the building. So how do you preview your lesson as a student? Well, one of the best ways is to work with your PLCs. Create your lessons in a Schoology sandbox course. Some things when you create it in your resource folder, it doesn't work exactly the same. And some things you can't actually create in the resource folder. You need to create it in a Schoology course rather than in the resource folder. Quizzes and tests, and there are a couple of other things like Google Drive assignments you can't create in the resource folder. Create it in a somebody's sandbox course, and then share the sandbox course with, share the code just like you've got for my class today, so that you can go in there and, as a student, preview the lessons and make sure it works the way you intend for students. Yeah, so if I give you my code like you've got for my sandbox, I called it my day pass course, is the one that you get kicked out of every day. You'll get kicked out of it. Now, if you're working with your PLC and you want everybody to be in there as an administrator and stay in there, let Jennifer or I know. We will be more than happy to set up a Schoology course for your PLC so that you can get signed in and you can stay signed in. Then move your stuff to somebody's sandbox course, use the code to join as a student, join that course as a student, and then preview it before you actually push it out to your classes. Mm-hmm. Right. Correct. Sort of. You can sort of do that, but stuff doesn't necessarily work. And the stuff that doesn't work well for that is if you have a Google Drive assignment, you can't open that document. Right. The quizzes and stuff don't work very well for you either. So you can see it and use that, view course as the student so that you can see what materials are posted for that student, but actually going into the assignments doesn't work quite exactly the same. Okay. All right. So Jennifer and I have rights to browse everybody's courses. So we've kind of been spot checking some courses, and we've seen some really great organization in people's courses. And there's a couple of ways that people are using it. Thematic units. So, each unit that teachers are working on, and then they've left them published. Class resources. A lot of our math folks particularly have a lot of class resources in there. Math is very difficult to use with Schoology to get students to do assignments. Anything that you've got, science folks, equations and equation editing and stuff like that is very difficult to do in Schoology at this point. But a lot of our folks in these situations use this as their class resources. And a lot of times we'll have like answer keys or some additional resource materials, links to stuff in Khan Academy. There are some teachers around the building who have created their own videos. It's fairly simple when you're teaching, especially if you're using Smart Notebook or Active Inspire, to actually just click record, or to record your screen using like Screencastify or something like that, to record a part of a lesson, create those materials, and then post it to your Schoology class. So you've got you teaching your lesson instead of somebody else. So you know exactly what the kids are getting. Time Machine was kind of one of the course organization schemas that Jennifer had talked about at the beginning of the year. Like week 1, week 2, week 3, and then listed by days inside of there. We've got a couple people that have been using that. Got some people that kind of have been using kind of a hybrid. So unit 1 and then week 1 or day 1, day 2, day 3. And some people have been putting the dates in there. My biggest concern if you're putting the dates in there is those dates are going to change for next year, right? So when you copy those materials into your resource folder, you're going to have to rename all those folders for next year. And the other problem that I've seen with some of these, like with the like that have the dates on them, is when kids go back to look for something, they don't know what date it was necessarily taught under. So I've also got some people that are doing like activity types, like warm-ups and notes and writing prompts and stuff like that. And we've got a couple people that have used like topics with pretty graphics, that they've added graphics to the folder just to give that a little bit of visual pop and to make those lessons a little bit more visually appealing and visually interesting. So at this point in the year, I think it might be worth a chat with your kids, just an informal chat, to see if the organization that you're using in your class works for them. Because ultimately, we want Schoology to be student friendly, right? We want it to be something that our kids are going to be able to use as a resource. And if they're having trouble finding stuff in your course because of the way you've got stuff organized, it's not really friendly for them. Get some input from them. Check and see. Can you find stuff? Can you go back, when you go back to study, do you know where to find stuff in here? And just have them kind of reflect on your organization in your courses. All right, so again, make your documents student friendly. Our students all have Chromebooks, right? Krista and I were talking about this morning. How can you teach your kids to snowboard if all you've ever done is ski? Right? So if you have never used the Chromebook, and if you're not comfortable using the Chromebook, how can you teach all of our students who have Chromebooks how to use them? We gave them to you for a reason. Use them, play with them, take them home, use it while you're watching TV at home, use it as your jetpack. I take my Chromebook to meetings because the battery lasts forever, right? I don't have to worry about a battery dying when I go to a meeting. You know, I take it home at night. I use it sitting on the couch while I'm watching TV because it's light, it's quick. You know, I turn it on, it's super quick. A lot of things don't work exactly the same on the Chromebook as they do on the Windows machines. Notably, Office documents, PowerPoint, Word documents, Excel spreadsheets, they don't work nearly as well. PDF files, not quite so bad, but they do work on the Chromebooks as long as you don't want students to interact with them. You know, if it's a resource, I know chemistry, you guys have a lot of PDFs and you're using them as resources for the kids, and that works perfectly fine. And I know a lot of your documents are complex, and there are definitely some documents that will not convert to a Google format when you try and import them. You know, graphics don't come in and stuff like that. And I totally get it. And I'm not saying spend hours and hours and hours and hours, you know, recreating your documents. But we're going to take a look at a couple of different kinds of things today. So Google Docs, Sheets, and Slides work really well with Schoology and with the kids on the Chromebooks. Docs, Sheets, and Slides are really kind of preferred document formats on those devices. They work a lot better. Schoology pages, just kind of converting your stuff into native Schoology pages. If you've got text documents that are pretty well just text, just copy and paste from your document into a Schoology page, and they display a lot better. There are some Chrome extensions that you can use. Notably, this is not a freebie, but if you have a lot of PDF files, those complex documents, and you want students to be able to interact with them, Kami, I don't know how you want to pronounce it, has an extension that works in your web browser that works just like the Google Drive assignment link. It actually shows up right beside it. You can assign a PDF file to students when they click on it, and when they have the extension installed, it opens the PDF file in Kami. They can annotate and edit, they can highlight things, they can circle things, they can type on documents, add text to documents and stuff like that. It has a submit button, they submit it, it turns it right back into your Schoology classroom, and then you can grade them through the Schoology assignments. It's not a freebie, it's like $99 for a year per teacher, but it really works well if you're heavily invested in PDF apps. Kami itself doesn't charge money to use the feature that has the PDF assignment app, kind of like the Google Drive assignment app. So it's a one, yeah. It's so what we're talking about today is making stuff streamlined and quick and easy for kids, so that they can click on it, it opens in Kami, they click submit, it's done. Rather than if you just add the PDF file, there's a bunch, like 3 or 4 extra steps to get it to Kami and then edit and annotate and then save it and then turn it back in. So what we're talking about today is streamlining things for our kids. It's the same, but DocHub doesn't have an integration app. The Kami extension integrates into Schoology better than DocHub does, because it gives you the one click, open the file, boom, it opens in Kami, edit, annotate, submit, done. You would I, agreed. So this year there was an RFP that went out for from downtown for digital tools. Kami was invited to submit an RFP so that we would purchase it district-wide. I don't know what the status of that was. I don't know if they submitted an RFP. I know WeVideo did, but there were some other tools that, you know, we know submitted for us to purchase a division-wide license from them, but I have no idea what the status of that is. I probably won't find out until August what tools were purchased. But if you have that huge base of graphic organizers and stuff like that, and I'm going to show you a couple of ways that you can make quick, better graphic organizers that are more native versions. You know, this might be something that you want to consider, whether you can purchase it with departmental funds or get Mr. Delaney to purchase it if we don't have it. I don't know. You know, I haven't really talked to Mr. Delaney about it, but $100 a year to make things run a lot smoother for you and for your classroom, you know. Well, let's take a look at some ways that we've got some stuff integrated, and we'll take a look at some of those. All right, so if you're in my presentation, there are links to everything here. I think if you click here, it'll take you to the folder in Schoology with this in it. The first way that I've seen that people are inserting documents is using the add file or link button, this tool right here, right? And click on the file, upload those documents from your computer. And I see a lot of this. I see a lot of PDFs and a lot of Word documents that are imported into Schoology. When you click on these files, it'll open up. This is the document, this is the PDF. They open up in the Schoology viewer. There's not a lot of ways for students to interact with those files. If you're using it for resources, that's great. If you got complex documents, it's great. But you should really consider anything that you add with this as a read-only document for students. Okay, there's not really going to be interactivity that they can do with those. It's really best if you have these Word documents, convert them to PDFs. The difference between PDF and Word documents, PDF stands for portable document format. It's intended to look the same no matter what device you're viewing it on. What I've seen happen with these guys is formatting won't come out right. I've seen some things where people have used tables in their documents, and man, when you open it up here, the tables come out all funky and messed up and just don't work. All you got to do in Word is go save as PDF, save your files as a PDF, upload those, because if you've got those documents for resources, that's going to work a lot better for students. But again, no student interaction on these types of documents. All right, so link documents in a page or an assignment. So, you know, you get the Schoology browser, the Schoology assignment that comes up, and you've got the place where you can type in there. And these documents were added using at the very bottom, the bottom left-hand corner of the Schoology window, using the insert file link. And what it does is it'll put these documents are attached using the file button, so they show up down at the bottom of the page. Well, these actually have, you notice they have a view button over here, right? When you click the view button, here's what you get. It pops up in the same document viewer. Again, no interactivity here, right? It's okay for resources, but if you want students to turn something in, this is not the best way to do it, clicking that button. They're going to have a hard time with these documents. Again, the Word documents may not necessarily even display correctly. PDF is a better format for that, but that's clicking these buttons. So what happens if you click on the document title here? If you click on the document titles, it downloads that file to your Google Drive. It saves it in your My Drive, just in the root of your My Drive. So imagine if kids have done that for every class. How many files do you think they have in their My Drive now? A lot, right? A lot. And then once they get it on their My Drive, then what do they do with it? Well, now they have to open it, right? So they've clicked on it, it downloaded, now they have to go find it in their My Drive, and then they have to open it. So they open either one of these when they open it from their My Drive is going to open in the Google Drive previewer, which gives them the options to download or print. No interactivity, right? So if you're trying to get kids to turn these documents in by attaching them with the file button down there, it's not going to happen. It's going to add 2, 3, 4, 5 extra steps in order for students to open them. Now, once it opens in the Google Drive previewer, if they've got Kami, installed in their Google Drive, they can open with Kami. It'll open a copy of it. They edit it in Kami, then they have to save it back to their Google Drive. And now still, how are they going to turn it into you? Now they have to go get the sharing link or go to the resources and turn that file in, right? So a bunch of extra steps if you do it this way. All right, so next way that I've seen people do this is links to documents in Pages, and when I'm saying Pages on all these, Pages and assignments, because they come up with the Kami editor, so it's really the same thing. These are added using the Google Drive resource app, so insert content and then the Google Drive resource app, but these are added with the import link button. And this is what they look like. So I put some text in here, and then there's links to these documents, okay? Now, a couple things happen here. This first one up here, that one's not really a Word document. It looks like it because it's got the docx extension on it, right? But that one's really not. That one's actually kind of misleading because that one actually is a Google Doc that just has a bad extension on it. If you're converting your files to Google Docs, take out the docx extension so kids know it's not really a Word document. Now this document, if I had put this up, this depends on what your Google Drive settings are, right? So it's a Google Drive document. If I have it set so that everybody can edit, now I've got that collaborative editing document in class, right? So everybody can be editing the same spreadsheet, slideshow, whatever. And that's a good use for this. But these guys down here, the PDF and the docx, that's really a docx, they show up in Google Drive previewer with not a whole lot that you can do with it. You can click open with if it's a PDF. You can open it in Kami, you can open it in DocHub, edit it, but again, they still have to save it and then figure out how to submit it to you in your class, right? A lot more steps to do that. All right, the next way is basically the same, except that instead of using, well, we're getting better, and it kind of depends on your documents. So we're going from not so good to better. And it kind of depends on the purpose of your documents. If you're expecting interactivity for students, you expect them to turn something in with that document, it just kind of depends on the document and where you put it. So these are inserted using the insert content, the same Google Drive resources app. This time, instead of doing that, I'm using import embed. Now, two things happen here. Depending on the size of the preview box, right? When I embed these documents, this document might be this wide, it could be this wide, depending on if you've resized the placeholder. It's also, if I've got a longer document and I didn't resize the placeholder lengthwise, I get scroll bars here so the kids can only see a little portion of the document. So if you look at the, it's on the next slide. I'll come back to that. So two ways that this happens. This one right here is the import embed. This is when you click on the material's opened up. And this one is set so that down on the bottom, where you have the options down here so you can assign to students, set learning targets. This button to the far right, display on new page. This is set to display on new page. It means when you're in the materials, you click on that and it opens in a new Schoology page with the document embedded in a new page, okay? This one You'll notice this is like in my materials list. So here's some other things that I've got in here. Here's my Google Drive resource app. And these are links. So if I clicked on one of these links right here, this one, this is what it displays here. It opens in the new Schoology page. This one was created using the same exact thing, import embed, but I set the option to display inline. The display inline means that when you're looking at a folder view, you've got, here's a link, here's this page, and you'll see the document right in the page, right? So depending on how you want those to be viewed, might be instructions that you have for an assignment. So you might set it to display inline so they don't have to go open the folder and then open the assignment and then see the instructions. The instructions can show right there. All right, Lynn, I'll come back to your question because it's a couple slides down. All right, an even better way, especially if you've got documents that are fairly straightforward and simple. Text documents, instructions. I've seen this a lot in people's classes. Click here to open the instructions. The instructions are only text. So when the kids click on that to open the instructions, they then have to click on that. You've added an extra click, right? So they've had to click through a couple more pages and then open instructions and then go back and then open the next thing that's the assignment, right? If you have things that are just instructions, plain text copies really well into a Schoology page. So in the editor box that's there, copy from your Word document, copy from your Google Docs, and then just paste straight into your editor. This is what that would show up as. This is when we've clicked on the title. And this one over here is set to display inline. So you got material, and then you've got text. There's an image in this one, right? So you can see the image. There's a video in this one. You can see the video. You don't even have to open that assignment in Schoology. So everything displays, and it just makes it a little more visually interesting for the kids. You can open that folder. You can see the instructions right there. You don't have to click through and click through and click through and click through. Assignments, you want to use the assignment rather than a page, right? All right. So some tips about recreating. All right. On creating documents in Schoology, native Schoology format. I'm calling it native Schoology. So when you click add a page or add an assignment, so you can add your instructions right there. You don't have to go anywhere for that. Use these tools to create visual interest. So bold, italics, underline, text colors, text sizes, numbers. You can indent things. You can add alignment for those. This tool allows you to add strike through and superscript and subscript. And a really important one, especially if you're copy and pasting from a Word document or a Google Doc, it actually pastes in kind of Word formatting or Google formatting. So it may not look consistent with the rest of your assignments. There's a button down here, just highlight everything and click clear formatting, and it strips all the formatting off of stuff. So you can reformat and make stuff a little bit more consistent. The insert content button. So you can use this to insert images and media. So videos, you can import your videos from YouTube right in here. Your Google Docs, you can add equations and stuff in here. Your list of apps that you've got installed, there are so many apps that you can embed directly into Schoology, so kids you don't have to put a link in that says click here to go to XYZ, click here to go to a Quizlet, right? You can just embed the Quizlet directly in your Schoology. You don't have to click here and then go here and then put in a code and then do this. You can embed the Quizlet. Click. They it opens inside Schoology. They don't get taken out of Schoology. They stay right in your course. And it makes it easier for students to do those things. There's also, Jennifer wanted me to show you this. There's a link down here. If you're putting in text and maybe you've got some words that you want to define or a key phrase or something, you can use this tooltip. Jennifer's got a link to a video that she's going to explain to you how to use the tooltip. So you can put that in. It'll highlight that. You click it. It pops up inside of Schoology to define a word or define things and just make it a little bit more user-friendly. As far as formatting to help make your pages a little more consistent, Schoology has built-in formatting. Paragraph would be standard body text, but you can also do heading 1, 2, 3, 4 to kind of differentiate different sections of instructions for an assignment. You can add pre-formatted text. You can add a block quote. You can also change the font sizes. So these things help to add a little bit of visual interest. Which one looks prettier? Plain black and white text, little pop of color. All right? All right. I know. All right. So some examples of assignments. Most of the things that we've been talking about are in pages. They do also work in assignments. But I wanted to talk about, I've seen these. These are some actual examples. And again, you don't have to claim these if they're yours. I've kind of tried to anonymize. You might know the department, but there's Sandy's, is okay. All right. So this is an example, and this is a not quite so friendly example, okay? What's not so friendly about this? Everything is attached in a Word document. If you go into this assignment in my Schoology sandbox on your Chromebook, and you take a look at this and you try and do this and turn this in, not going to happen. There's no way for students to interact with this document, but that's what the teacher intended. Okay? So 10 minutes, took me 10 minutes to revise this. Here's a better way. It's now a Google Drive assignment. All that I did was I converted it to Google Drive, to a Google Doc. If you open this, it's pretty much this document without the scoring rubric, but the scoring rubric is here, listed right here. It's attached to this assignment as a scoring rubric. So students now get here, they see the instructions, they open this document. It's a Google Doc, so everybody gets their own copy. So I get Supreme Court cases, case review, Jennifer Blaze. The students can type in it, they click submit, they turn it in. That part's done. You go to grade it, I've attached a scoring rubric to it. So as a teacher, when I open these to assign the grade, I go down and go click, 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 done. One other thing that makes this Google Drive assignment better, if students are having to go to your resource folder, their resources, and go to their Google Drive and turn in an assignment, it converts it to a Schoology formatted document. The only place you can leave a comment is in the grading on the right-hand side. You have to click the share with students. They don't know where your comments might be. This Google Drive assignment, you can open that up. You can go down, highlight a word, add a comment. Highlight something later on, add a comment. So you can put comments directly in their Google Doc where it needs to be so they can see as they go down the list. But you can make it leave a comment. If I put a comment in this document and put plus J.E. Blaze, it'll find Jennifer, it'll add a comment, and then they'll get a Google notification that somebody has made a comment in one of your documents. Put it in the comment. Yeah, so it's not necessarily as teacher friendly to view these, but if you go into your Google Drive, yep, you can in Schoology you can click the next button and it'll open the next student's document. But your concern is that you don't get to see the full document in there, and it's a little hard to scroll, and sometimes the scroll bar works a little funky. It definitely does. Yeah. I just put another ticket in with the put questions and put question bank on it. But it jumps around as you're kind of. We're talking about that in math. Yep. Yep. It's annoying. So, there is a learning curve. This is Schoology's first foray into into Google. So Schoology tends to make updates over the summer so they don't interrupt your flow during the year with a lot of updates. So if there's going to be an update to this next year, it might work a little smoother. We do have tickets. There's been little things throughout the year. There's another little one coming. But the big ones will come over this. All right, so I got a couple more slides I want to wrap up before our next class. A tip for Google Drive assignments, because what's the other problem with the Google Drive assignment? When you copy it to another class, what happens to the attached document? So next year, how do you know what document to reattach? Here's a suggestion. I've got in parentheses right here the title of the document. So next year or next time when I move it to another class, I know what document to search for in the Google Drive assignment. It's a Google Drive API thing. Get permission from Google to do certain things, and Google is not going to do it. Yep. All right, I've also seen assignments that look like this. Complete the attached graphic organizer and turn this in. It's a PDF, right? So again, my choices are I download it, I open it, it opens in the Google Drive previewer. Now I have to go open with DocHub or Cami, go to that app, make my edits, save it back to Google Drive, turn it in, right? That's a lot of steps, right? So this is a graphic organizer. A better solution is this, to recreate your graphic organizers using Google Slides. Google Slides has a cool feature that there's actually a link down here. I think it's down in the notes on this page. That's a quick link to about a 2 or 3 minute video that will show you how to recreate graphic organizers in Google Slides. The problem is, normally, if you put stuff in Google Slides, the kids can move your graphic organizer all the way around, right? You go in first, create your graphic organizer, copy it, and then create a master slide from that. When you create the master slide, you create a new slide. It creates all of that, your graphic organizer stuff as the background, and then they can't move it. So there's this document, if you take a look at that, it was created in that way. And there are instructions how to create that, and we will be more than happy to help you recreate that. Because this is now in a Google Doc, it makes it a lot easier. The kids open it. I get Venn diagram Jennifer Blaze. She opens it, edits it, save, submit, done. Right? Taking out about 8 steps for kids. All right, Lynn, your question. Once you add something, you know how it comes up with that yellow placeholder or green placeholder in your document, right? If you click on it, you get a couple things. You get handles that you can drag and resize things. You also get this up in the upper left-hand corner. If you click on the image icon there, you'll get this that pops up. Depending on what the placeholder is for, there might be a couple of other pages on there. You can set the image. The image description is actually used by screen readers. So if you have any kids that use a screen reader in your class, it's an ADA compliance thing. So if you have text in an image, you need to put whatever the text is included in there, so that if we have visually impaired students that are trying to read this, it will come up and they can see that, and we're ADA compliant. You can also set alignment to adjust left and right. Because this is a web page, you can only set float left or float right. The dimensions, once you kind of figure out, and this is one of those reasons that you want to preview it on your Chromebook so that you can maximize the size of your images here so it'll take the most space. When you put something in that's a placeholder, like an embedded document, and you give it this big, the document scales to that big, and then kids can't necessarily read it there. But if you scale it out so it's like full width, that takes up all the available size, you can make that a little easier to read. You can set the width and the height on that, and kind of once you get an idea, you can kind of keep those numbers in mind so you can quickly go down, edit it, manually adjust the sizes, and that helps out. Border puts a line around the outside edge, and vertical and horizontal space keep text from running into it. If you don't set any horizontal or vertical space, you'll have an image and the text will be right slammed up against it. So you probably want to add about 8 to 10 pixels of vertical space on those. All right, embedded apps. There we have some examples here. Schoology is an open API. API stands for Application Programming Interface, that third parties can use to embed things and build things for Schoology, build apps. We have a list. There's a link right here for Schoology apps and extensions that VBCPS has approved, and that they have instructions for how to embed those things. Everything embeds slightly differently, and there's also right here, this button that looks like this will open the App Center, and there are a ton of apps that you can use to build into Schoology. PlayPosit that works really well. You might have to recreate some of your videos as PlayPosits. You can add interactivity, you can add questions and learning checks into those things. YouTube, Nearpod, Dropbox, quizzes, a lot of things that you can embed directly in Schoology so that you don't have to send kids out. Jennifer's teaching a class at the Digital Learning Summer Summit this summer for embedded apps, and if you have questions about any, please come see us and we'll help you get those things embedded. All right, so this is kind of, in the last 2 minutes here of your time, I'm going to take large assignments and break them down. This is kind of one of the assignments that really started me building this class. I had our PE people came to us and said, oh my God, the kids are not turning this assignment in. They're not doing it right. So what they had was one large document. It was a Word format. One of the teachers had converted it to Google Docs, but this is page 9 of this assignment that was added as a link, and they wondered why kids weren't turning this in. Well, as they go down here, complete journal entry 1, this link to another Google Drive assignment. Well, the problem with that, kids would open that, they can't edit it because it's not their document, it was view only. They had to make a copy, make their edits on it, come back to this document, change the link, right? This is one of like 7 or 8 documents in here. And then they said, well, I don't know why the kids aren't turning it in. Well, it's very difficult for the kids to use. So as we broke this down, there are samples of both of these in the Schoology class. Which do you think is easier for kids to use? This or this? Right? Okay, here's assignment number 1. Here's this. Here's your scoring rubric. Here's what you're going to be graded on. and it's all in individual pieces. Setting your nutrition goals. This is a Google Drive assignment. They don't then have to go back, open it, make a copy, edit it, change the link in the original document, right? So streamlining it for the student's use. There's a link here. Here's the link for the original. Here's the link for the revised version of that. Please take a look at those. So some things that you guys told us that you need help with is time, right? 100%, I agree. You know, there's kind of some front loading that goes on as you build lessons. It's a time-consuming process. So unfortunately, the DeLorean's out of service right now. Doc Brown's got it, and he's working with that. But you know, work with others to create these things. Nobody should be an island unto themselves. If you're teaching a singleton class, you know, you might be in that situation, but guess what? There's probably somebody at another school that's teaching a similar class, right? Okay, not for you, but you know. Work with your PLC. Connect with us. We will be more than happy to sit down with you and work through how to convert your lessons. Yep, we will be more than happy to help you with these things. There are some resources in public Schoology groups. Just because somebody in Virginia Beach doesn't teach your subject, somebody around the country does that's using Schoology. Collaborate with us. We're here to help. We want to help you to be successful. We want to help your students to be successful using Schoology and to use our digital instruction. So the quick version of takeaways here. Paper and pencil assignments. You might have to revise those. You know, when you get a document to turn it in and it says name at the top of it. Well, students, if you're doing a Google Drive assignment, they don't need to put their name on the document in Google, right? So when you show them those documents, are you showing them that you've revised this, or you just pulled something out of a notebook to use, right? Use Google Drive, Google Docs assignments whenever appropriate. Create native Schoology documents for pages and assignments. Minimize the number of clicks. How many times did you hear me say how many clicks stuff takes, right? Think about if you're on a website and you have to do 8 clicks to do something, are you going to do it? You want to do as few clicks as possible, right? Exactly. Stay in Schoology whenever possible. Limit your outside links and preview stuff on your Chromebook. And we are here to help. We are more than happy to help you. All right. If you haven't done the Schoology assessment, the navigational marker self-assessment, please take some time to do that. There are courses in Frontline. If you search right here for ITEC, I-T-E-C, you'll find a bunch of division-wide courses on Schoology. And the Digital Learning Summer Summit is coming up. There are only 2 dates this year, June 19th and August 13th. They are in Schoology. In Frontline, there are morning and afternoon sessions for those. And I think you get like 4 points for each morning and afternoon. So if you need points, thank you. Bye. Thank you. You have. I know. I've seen that. I've seen that you have. I have.
I did the. I wanted to show you, Jennifer. I did.
You can unplug me.
But we muddled through it together.